that when you log into TMAC, especially, well, in either TMAC screen, the main screen or the DC matching screen, you need to manually move the year back to 23-24 in order to conduct the May and June matches. If you don't do that, then you're going to be matching your enrollment data to the new school year, 24-25, and that can produce errors in eligibility for the next school year. So we do know, we have been monitoring and looking at that there are some districts who've made this mistake. And if you've probably been notified by your consultant, if you have, there's no need to panic. It can be fixed in July with your first enrollment file upload. There is a button that you can click called Replace that I would say you never want to normally click that button, because it will remove all of the data that was uploaded beforehand. But for those of you who've accidentally uploaded your enrollment file into the wrong school year for May, then you're going to need to do that. So reach out to your consultant for more instructions on that. Again, the Replace button is something you normally never want to click, but some of you may have to do so in July as you do your first data match for this 24-25 school year. Let me see on my list of bullet things, what is next? Another thing we want you to keep in mind as you end school year 23-24 is that you need to make sure that you have downloaded all of your DC matches, those export files. Make sure you have all of those, not just exported out of TMAC, but saved somewhere on your computer or in your cloud, whatever it is that your district uses, because those are your source documents for how you established eligibility for the students in school year 23-24. And so for those of you who are using this data to establish CEP for the next 3 or 4 school years, that data is going to be reviewed, right? So at some point, although we don't always come in and ask for data just randomly, you're going to have to provide that data. For those of you who are CEP schools, you're going to have to provide that data on your administrative review so that we can validate that ISP. So if you're in my region, you've probably heard me talk about the importance of file management when it comes to this direct certification stuff, and how important it is, more important now than ever, because you've got so many different files. You know, now we have enrollment files that you're getting from your student information software, and you're uploading that into TMAC. And then you have export files that you're getting the matches out of TMAC, and you have to save that somewhere. And then you have to import that into your nutrition software. So there's lots of files coming and going in different places, and they all have similar names and terminology. So it's really, really important to establish a file management system that works for you. Everybody's brain is different. Everybody organizes their files in a different way and has different naming conventions for their files. But I really suggest that you take a few minutes to consider what you want that to be, to set up a system, and then ensure that you have downloaded all of your, or exported all of your matches out of TMAC before June the 30th. Why June the 30th? Well, because that's the end of the school year, and we'll roll everything into next school year. And we want to make sure that you have the data that you need stored where you need it. You know, this is a new process, and we don't want anybody to be surprised or to not have their data when they need it. So make sure that you've got all of your exports, your match files exported out of TMAC by June the 30th. Another thought to think about when we're talking about file management and these export files and where you're saving them is that you might want to reach out to your IT department and just ask them about where your files are backed up at. If you're storing your export files on your laptop or on your desktop, your district may not be backing that up. And if something happens and your laptop or your desktop crashes, you may lose that data if that's the only place you have it stored. So it's always a good idea to check with your IT department and make sure your location that you're storing your files is someplace that they back up on a regular basis, so that you don't lose those files if something happens to your local system. Okay, So that's kind of what you need to know to wrap up 23-24. Let's talk about school year 24-25. So this isn't really a change, but something I want to reiterate, that all SFAs must use the new TMAC DC matching process. Since we're part of the demonstration project with the USDA, it requires everybody use this process because this is where you get the Medicaid files from. The legacy files will remain available in school year 24-25, so you will have access to them, but it's really important to remember that those legacy files will not have Medicaid data. And so think of them more as a backup or a safety net, or a way you can manually look up kids if you wanted to do that your old school way, but you still have to use the TMAC DC data matching process. It's still required because that's the only place you're going to get the Medicaid matches. And you don't want to miss out on those for lots of reasons. Even if you're a district that doesn't do CEP, and you would benefit from those Medicaid-free directly certified students, even if you're not a district that does that, you're free or reduced, you're going to pick up a lot of free Medicaid-free students and a lot of Medicaid-reduced students that can really help ease the burden of charges and applications on your district. So it's really a good idea to do that. You have to do this matching process monthly. So it's a really good idea to get this established early and kind of get a process in place and get in a routine and start this process off right for school year 24-25. Okay, some final thoughts about just generally speaking about this process. I just want to talk to you about the hierarchy again. Remember, there is a hierarchy of which benefit programs come first. SNAP always trumps everything. SNAP is the highest benefit there is. I know free is free to students, but when it comes to reporting, it does matter. So if a student has multiple benefits, you're going to want to grab the SNAP benefit, and then TANF, and then other, which would be the foster, homeless, migrant, runaway, and then Medicaid free, and then Medicaid reduced. So it's really important to make sure that your software is lining that up properly. And I'm not sure how that works with everybody's software because each company is different. Every software works a little different. You really need to get in contact with your software company if you're not certain what it's doing to make sure that it's following the hierarchy correctly. And another thing that's really important to think about is that, or to know and make sure it's happening properly, is that a Medicaid benefit or a Medicaid match should never have a negative impact on a student. So if a student is already income-based, income application-based free, and they show up as a Medicaid reduced student on one of the matching files, just because that is a kind of a direct certification, you would not reduce the student's benefit from free to reduced just because they showed up on the Medicaid file. That's really important. The Medicaid matching process should never have a negative impact on a student's eligibility. And then one final thought, two final thoughts actually. Enrollment files that you get from your software company or that somebody in your district produces from your student information system, those files should not contain duplicate student names, because when they do, it causes duplicate records in TMAC. So it's really important to have a conversation with somebody, whether it is your student information software company or the person in your district who is pulling that data for you, to make sure that whenever they give you the file, not only is it formatted correctly to be imported into TMAC, but to also make sure that it does not contain duplicate students. And there are instances where some companies, if some software companies will extract those students out multiple times if they have multiple guardians listed within the software. So if you could help make sure that there are not duplicates, it would make your TMAC export a lot cleaner because it wouldn't match those students multiple times. And also finally, DC files are no longer really a month behind. The way the data is coming to us now ensures that when we say that the files are ready, you're seeing the most current files. They're not really lagging behind a month. Um, it's a much more clean, it's a much cleaner process. And that is all I have on my talking points. And Marlia, are there any questions in the chat so far?
So far, so good. I don't see any questions yet.
Okay. Oh, here we go. I think something just popped in. Good question. Do SNAP DC extended benefits and TANF DC extended benefits follow the same hierarchy, meaning they take priority over other as well as Medicaid free and reduced? So I think what you're asking, Julie, is if a student has one of the other, perhaps a homeless migrant runaway or foster of their own benefit, but then they could be extended SNAP from somebody who is SNAP in their household. I believe you're asking me if that SNAP benefit takes precedence. If that's the case, my gut tells me yes, but I would not want to give you that confirmation without speaking with Randa first and Catherine Horton to make sure that I have that correct. Let's see. So we'll follow up on that one, Julie. Will we continue to have access to the legacy system in the upcoming school year? Yes, the legacy system will remain in place for school year 24-25. Again, think of it like as a backup, or like you said, Kendallin, where you're able to find some additional students that the TMAC software isn't. But it's not, it can't be the only thing you're using to match. So you need to do the DC matching process so that you pick up all those Medicaid students as well. But the legacy files will remain available for another school year, just to make sure that if you're able to find some other students on there, it's available to you. Great question. Let's see. Will the DC matches continue to be the entire list monthly or only new benefit recipients? I have not been told that it's going to change back to the new benefits. I think, and we'll follow up on this too as well, just to make sure that it's going to continue to be that new list every month when it comes to the SNAP benefits. I think TANF as well, but we'll check on that and follow up for certain. You're welcome. So a student starts DC benefits being homeless, then they come in on the Medicaid free, and then they come in on the SNAP. How do we manage this? That's a great question. So obviously you're going to give them the best benefit in the moment. So if they start out with nothing, they're paid, and they come in as homeless, then you're obviously going to give them that homeless benefit. Medicaid free, you would not change them from homeless to Medicaid free because that is lower on the hierarchy. So that benefit really wouldn't make a change in the student. But then when they show up as SNAP, it absolutely would make a change. You would want to grab that SNAP benefit the month they come in as SNAP. And if you have software that's doing this matching for you, it should manage that process for you. So again, I'm not sure what software company you use, but it would probably be worth a conversation with them, with somebody in their customer support or tech support, just to make sure that it's doing what you think it is or what it should be doing with these hierarchies. Okay, when we import for the first month of the school year, do we hit that replace button to start new or continue like regular? Okay, so great question, Angie. 99% of you will never, ever hit the replace button because that could be devastating to your matches. So at the beginning of the school year, TMAC is going to have a clean slate automatically. The only districts who are going to need to hit the replace button in July, this July only, are those districts who have accidentally uploaded their May enrollment file in school year 24-25. So that's very few of you, but there are some out there. And that's why I was saying it's very important to make sure that if you're still somebody who's going to need to make May matches, or when the June file comes out, that when you log into that DC screen in TMAC, that you change that year back to 23-24. Because if you don't, you're going to be making matches in school year 24-25, and then you would need to click the replace button. So if you're confused at all about whether you should click the replace button, don't, and call your consultant first, because they can help you see what you need to do and make sure you get that right. Because again, that replace button is kind of that nuclear button. You don't want to press it unless you absolutely have to. It's very few people who will use that. Great question. And so where do we make sure we haven't done that? So when you log into the TMAC screen, the DC module right now, if you were to log in, it's going to take you to school year 24-25. It's going to be the same DC screen that you always use, but it's going to say school year 24-25, and you should have 0 matches made. If you have made matches in that school year, then they're incorrect because you can't have done it yet. You should not have been able to do it yet, and you did because you didn't drop it back. So again, if you're not sure, if that's a little confusing, just reach out to your consultant. They can look at it for you from their side of things and tell you whether you made that mistake or not. All right, Kendall, and can we run the new DC list as of July 1st for school year 24-25? That's a 2-part question, so let me start with that. The DC list for school year 24-25 will be a July list. That'll be the big list, like our May list used to be. So that's going to be released sometime early July. I don't have a date, but I'm hoping within the first week. I just don't know that for sure. But you'll get a notification on listserv just like always. That will be the big first start of the school year list that you use to establish eligibilities in 24-25. These May and June lists, the May list that just came out, the June list that will come out, those are not for school year 24-25. Those are only for this school year that we're just finishing up, 23-24. And the second part of your question, Kendall, says, also, what legacy list do we need to start with the school year 24-25? Same thing. All lists for school year 24-25, the first list will be July. And that will be the big list. It will be similar to, or look just like our old May list, right? But we're not looking at it and pulling the data until July 1st. That's a USDA requirement that we don't pull that data until July 1st. So everything for school year 24-25 is a July list, whether it's legacy or whether it's in the TMAC matching module. Okay, Robin, if a student had a benefit for Medicaid for 23-24, but are not listed in July DC, they will still have carryover benefits for 30 days of the new school year. So yes, that's correct. They will have. So if you matched a student in May or June or any time during 23-24, then they all get the carryover benefit for the first 30 days of school year 24-25. That is correct. But then they either have to reapply or be found on a new list, or the July list moving forward, or their benefits will end. Okay, Cheryl, let's see. Do we need to worry about deleting students with duplicate entry types from the file and TMAC in 24-25, or can we let them hang in there and in the exports? So that's a great question, and it really depends on what your software is capable of doing. Again, a conversation with your software company, I think, is in order to make sure that if you import into your software a file that has duplicates, whether it's an exact duplicate or a student who has multiple benefits on one file, because we know that's possible, right? A student in the same month may be showing up with SNAP and foster and sometimes even Medicaid. You need to ask your software company if it's capable of making those determinations for those students. I suspect it is, but I would not be able to tell you that for sure. That's a conversation for them. And so whether or not you need to take the time to remove those from TMAC and the export that you're going to use would depend on what your software company says and your level of confidence and their ability to handle those duplicates. Great question, Cheryl. Is that 30 school days or calendar days? It's operational days, the first 30 operational days, the school days. Another good question, and that's true no matter whether it's Medicaid or the free free or reduced household income benefits. They all get a temporary grace for the first 30 operating days of the new school year. Okay, Cheryl, so the determination needs to be based on the hierarchy and not the earliest date of benefits. Well, so it's kind of both, right? Um, I think it was so confusing in 23-24, school year 23-24, because we were kind of always playing catch up. We were kind of behind, right? So a lot of you didn't even start, or the files weren't even available to be matched until September. Some people didn't even start till October or November. And so the files just keep getting added to the backside of TMAC, the eligibility files for students from the partner agencies. And so when you do your initial match, you probably had students who have 5 or 6 eligibilities that started maybe back in July, and they just kept stacking them, right? And that's why I think you had to make so many determinations to begin with to try to decide, do we do date or do we do hierarchy? You're going to give the student the benefit, the earliest benefit date, but it's going to progress. Kind of like the person who asked the question earlier, the student started as, maybe a student starts as Medicaid free, and then they go to homeless, and then they progress to SNAP all in subsequent months. You're not going to wait until October to give them a SNAP benefit. You're going to go ahead and give them the Medicaid benefit in July. And then if they become homeless in September, you're going to give them a homeless benefit. And then if they become SNAP in December, you're going to give them the SNAP benefit. So if all dates were the same, it would be simply the hierarchy. But if you're looking backwards in time and you have multiple dates and multiple benefits, you're going to do the best benefit for the student, which would be date, and then apply the hierarchy as it progresses forward. I don't think it's going to be an issue this school year because everybody's going to start in July. And so all of those dates will be July dates, right? And then you're going to do it monthly. And as it progresses monthly, I think the natural progression of these students and their benefit assignments will just occur without there really being a lot of questions to be answered or decisions to be made, whether you're doing it manually or with software. I think it's just going to progress naturally this school year if you start early, if you start in July, and then do it every single month. I think it was just a little confusing this year because we were kind of working backwards a lot. Good question, though, Cheryl. Those are some great ones. I don't see any other ones rolling in. I haven't gotten anything kind of outside the meeting. Marlia, do you have anything or anything you think I need to add or didn't talk about?
I think so. Like I said, it was going to be short and sweet today.
Yeah. Oh, Brooke's got her hand raised. What's up, Brooke?
I got a question for you. Oh, can you hear me?
Sure.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. Do you recommend that districts every month, when they upload their enrollment file, that they have, say, for example, their July file, they have a July file for their 100% matches, they export that out and save it. With their possible matches, they export that out, save it, and along with their extended. Because
the potential. So yeah, so that's a good question. And our guidance early on in this process, so last fall when this first rolled out, Andrew at the time said to do exactly what you were talking about. Like when your system first makes that set of matches, to at least export out the potential eligible and the potential extended and have that setting off to the side. I don't know if that's something that necessarily districts would have to do still, because unless they make the match, unless they agree to the match, I'm not sure that it matters. And if they do agree to the match, I believe the data from that potential file or extended file moves into that 100% match file. Does that kind of make sense? I mean, it would never hurt to have it, but that goes to that file management, like making sure that you name these files appropriately so that you don't accidentally import into your system your student information, your nutrition software, a potential list that isn't really the kids you meant to match. So I think there's good and bad about doing it. If you thought you might need it someday, that would be fine. I think that was Andrew's guidance to begin with. But what I think I have seen is that when you make the matches and they move up into that upper level where they're all matched, the data that was with them in the potential area goes with them. So you don't lose the data. It's just there in that very long export file. And again, if they do that, if they do keep all of those potential exports the way we were originally saying that, I think you have to be very careful about how you name them so that you know this was just my potentials that it offered me. And don't accidentally put that into your nutrition software, because then you'd be giving eligibilities that may not be true. Does that kind of answer the question?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Miss Frankie.
You're welcome. File management and naming conventions. I cannot stress it enough. It's a big deal, and it's got to make sense to you, because you've got, whoever you are, you've got to be able to pull it back up and explain it, and you've got to be able to grab the right files and put them in the right places. It's big business, and it's not like it was before. It's a big thing. All right, we have a few more questions. You inspired them, Brooke. Let's see. Kim, I'm unable to open the legacy files in my county. I believe that's something that we can fix. So email your consultant, and I think they can maybe ask Latricia to work on that for you. Does the individual search work in TMAC? So there are a couple of places where you individually search in TMAC. One search area is a search of your matches that were already made. Then the place right above it is like an individual lookup. I'm not certain if that feature is working. At one point I was told it was not. I've never used it. So I don't know if somebody else on the call has ever used that to look up a student like one at a time in the TMAC records that are the partner agency records that are behind. The other search feature that is there is the search of your 100% matched file. So that's a different search area. So you have to be careful about which one you're looking at. If you're trying to find a student you don't already have matched, searching your matched file won't fix it, won't find the student. But there is an area where you may be able to search behind TMAC, and I'm not certain if that's working or not, to be honest, but we'll check on that. Okay, Robin. So we will use current 23-24 enrollment to match for July. No, you will not. So you will have to use a July enrollment file. And so I see your point about how early July you may not have current enrollment, like as in all the kids may not be enrolled in school yet. You may not have all your kindergartners yet. But my understanding when I was in a district during the summertime, our student information system would roll over and promote students in their student information software the same way we did in our nutrition software. Where you take all the students and you put them in a bundle and you move them into the next grade. You take their money with them, you take everything about them with them. Well, student information systems do the same thing. And so they should be able to produce for you pretty early in July. I mean, you'll have to work with them about when is their rollover complete. You'll have to work with your student information people about when is that ready for the new school year. No, it won't have all of your kids in there, because all the kids who are getting ready to be enrolled in the kindergartners, they may not be there yet. But you can match more than once in a month. So if you're concerned you're missing students, if you're concerned, well, we do our match July the 10th, but then we've got a ton of kids who've came in the next 2 weeks. Well, you can match again. There's no harm in that. Again, it's all about keeping track of your exports and your data and file managing your data. So you will not use enrollment for 23-24 in school year 24-25. At the end of June 30th, that's it. School year 23-24 is done. And you can only use enrollment and matches in July. They're made in July. I hope that helps. Do we need to manually remove the duplicate eligibilities from TMAC? So Lisa, like if a student was Medicaid free on 8-1 and then SNAP on 9-1, do we need to remove those? So Lisa, I think you're thinking about it the way it kind of happened last year where you would get an export file out of TMAC that was matched, and Charlie Brown would be listed on your export file as Medicaid free on 8-1, SNAP on 9-1, same file, same export. I think you won't see as much of that this year if you do your matching every month. If you start in July and then you do your matching at least once a month, right? Once a month is required. So if you keep on top of it, I'd like to think you won't see the scenario you described. But if you do, that goes back to that conversation or what I was talking about earlier about, can your software company properly make the decision if you give it both entries on the file that you import into your nutrition software? I think it should know what to do. Like you wouldn't want to, you would give the student the Medicaid free eligibility on 8-1 because that's the best benefit to the child. But then on 9-1, it should change to a SNAP benefit. So it really depends on what your software can do, whether or not you need to do that. But you would never want to say if a student was enrolled in your school on August the 1st and they had Medicaid on August the 1st, you would never want to delete record of that benefit because you're feeding them all of August on that Medicaid benefit before you turn it into a SNAP benefit on 9-1. And I know it sounds confusing when we think about it, but again, software should make those decisions properly, and it would be fine to leave it in TMAC. Great question. Let's see. Oh, Latricia, thanks for chiming in. So yeah, so it sounds like for those of you who are supervisors out there who say you don't have access to the legacy files any longer, if that's true, you need to reach out to Ms. Latricia Harris or your consultant, and we can get you access to those legacy files so that you have them. But again, remember, the legacy files are just kind of the backup. You know, they're there if you want to do some extra matching. You know, you've got a local algorithm you use, but they can't be the only thing you do because the Medicaid students, the Medicaid data are not in the legacy files. And the Medicaid demonstration process, the project that we're a part of, says that all SFAs have to use the automated data matching that includes Medicaid. So you can use the legacy files. They're great to have, but that can't be the only thing you do. Great questions. You guys are on it. Okay, so for new school nutrition supervisors in a newish school, is there a DC match guide or a video tutorial? Well, there is no video tutorial. This meeting is being recorded, but this isn't really a step-by-step for you. There is an older, it was like a process guide, but honestly, probably the best thing you could do is reach out to your consultant and have them work with you the first few times through. What I found in my region is it's easiest if I'm sitting beside the supervisor or whoever it is that's responsible for doing the process. And as I walk them through it, we go very slowly and allow them to make their own notes, because the pieces that stand out about the steps you take, they're different for everybody, right? So it's really the best way to get it down is to sit side by side with your consultant and let them help walk you through it and let you take notes on how to do it as you're clicking through it. I think that'll stick the best. And to be clear, you don't have to do this process on July the 1st. It's whenever the files are available. And I don't have the date for when the files will be available, but hopefully early July. And, you know, you're going to want to do the process in July when you have your enrollment file ready, but it doesn't have to be done on July the 1st. You know, the sooner the better probably, so you can start getting DC notification letters out and that sort of thing. Let's see, does the new matching system include students who receive benefits as part of being, so migrant, foster, well, foster, yes. So there are foster DC records in the new process. That's true. Migrant and homeless, that's a local certification. So there is no like state certification for that. There's no partner agency to give us those files. So those certifications, while they can be directly certified, they're directly certified from your local source. So somebody in your district is responsible for certifying students according to whatever regulation governs that, whatever it takes to be migrant officially, whatever it takes to be homeless officially. They have somebody in your district has that responsibility and understands those rules. And what you need from them in order to make somebody homeless or migrant or runaway, actually is another one within your nutrition software, is you need either a list or an email from the person who is responsible for creating those certifications that lists the student's name and the date they became that eligibility, listing that eligibility. So Charlie Brown became homeless on August the 15th, or Lucy became certified migrant as of, September 12th. That's what you'll need for those. TMAC won't know those things. Those are local. Very good question. How do we get a recording from today? Marlia, how do they get the recording from today? Does that go out in the follow-up?
Yes, that will go out in the follow-up after we get it on a nice YouTube link so you can access it.
All right, that's fantastic. I think I've been answering them as they've come down. Have I missed any that you've noticed?
No, you have not. I've been marking them with a thumbs up once you've addressed them. So we have thumbs up down the whole chat.
Right.
But if we don't have any questions right now, I will unmute Catherine. She has a note for us.
Great.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to bring a note that if you are uploading your enrollment file and you are still, when you upload it, you get a notice that you have errors or warnings, please do not click the button to continue with errors and warnings. We use that, or Sandy used that feature with her training just to get some data out there so you could train. But in production, we don't want to continue with errors and warnings. If you do receive those errors and warnings, please reach out to your consultant, and I'll be happy to schedule a time and we can get your file formatted so that you won't get those anymore. That way we can work with your vendor who's creating that, or whatever the name be. We want to support so you don't get that and don't have to continue with those. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. I completely left that off my notes for today. So yeah, that's a great point. And I can attest that Catherine is really good at walking you through and assisting districts with getting rid of those errors. She's very, very good. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. And then your files are super clean and you don't have a lot of these other issues that come along with these errors and warnings. Great point. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks, Miss Brooke. I appreciate it. All right. Well, I don't see. Thank you, Trista. I don't see anything else. Anybody have any final questions? You can always reach out to your consultant. We're always here for you. We may not have the answers in the moment, but we'll find them and get them back to you. We've got a great team who's supporting us, and it's just going to get better as we go along. All right. Well, if nobody has any questions,